Welcome back to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. I'm your host, Nathan Hirsch, and my guest today is Alex Schlinsky. How you doing, Alex? Did I pronounce it right?
You nailed it, bro.
Awesome. I'm excited to talk to Alex. For those of you that don't know, he got a psychology degree, then worked for the NFL and got MMA credentials as a media member. Now he's a serial entrepreneur running 2 six-figure companies. Alex is the founder of the renowned mastermind and training program, Prospecting on Demand, created to help entrepreneurs break free from the freelancer trap to achieve the goals in creating time and financial freedom without the common drawbacks and overwhelming hassle. Alex has had an opportunity to directly contribute to over 500 business consultants, generating $1,000 to $10,000 per month in monthly revenue, while aiding over 120 entrepreneurs in the POD family in achieving their first six-figure year. Alex, I'm excited to talk to you. We're going to talk all about that. I know you're all about sales, which I'm excited to dive into. But first, let's take a gigantic step back. What were you like growing up? Were you a rebel? Were you a straight-A student? Did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I definitely did not always know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. When I was a kid, I was the loudest person in the room pretty consistently. Still am a pretty loud person, very talkative. So it was pretty common for people in my community to kind of put me and pigeonhole me into, he's going to be an attorney. That was kind of the big thing as I was growing up. I actually went for when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, I actually worked in the summer with a lot of attorneys to kind of get wet in the area to see if that was something I wanted to do. And ultimately that was not something I wanted to do. Great story is actually who ended up becoming my first client 3 years later in my agency. First day I got into the car, he said, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, "I want to become an attorney." And he said, "No, you don't." So that was really a really unique experience. But yeah, growing up, I did not always want to be an entrepreneur. I actually wanted to do either like a PhD or have kind of a corporate job, but I didn't recognize what was at stake when you do that and the freedom that you have to replace for that. So once I kind of went into school and I recognized opportunities that I could do on my own, obviously it was just easier for me to dive in. And both of my parents were entrepreneurs after doing corporate jobs. So it made it easier transition for me to feel comfortable to dive into being an entrepreneur.
So talk to me about your first entrepreneurial endeavor. How did that go? What did you do?
First one ever. Wow. The first entrepreneurial endeavor I ever did was a garage sale at my house at 6 years old without telling my parents. I grabbed my old school Lego playbox, which was this awesome playbox that had it was a table and you could open it up. It had Legos in it. And I took a bunch of stuff from my parents' room and then I wrote on a board, garage sale, and had some people buying some of my dad's records. My dad was not very happy about that when he drove back home and saw. That was definitely my first entrepreneurial endeavor. I think I might have been 10, maybe 11. In terms of my actual, experience and diving into being an entrepreneur, it's not exactly the standard entrepreneurial story, but it is very unique and still kind of fits in that mold, in my opinion. When I worked for the Dolphins, I did not have any credentials. I did not go to school to become a journalist. Like you said, I went to school to become a psychologist. When I left school and recognized that I wasn't going to go to grad school to become a psychologist, I didn't know what to do. So I fell back to my old habits, which I'm a huge sports fan. So I just called the Miami Dolphins every single day until they'd give me a job or opportunity. And basically the first 3 months after I left school, called the Dolphins every day and basically emailed every single website available to blog for the Miami Dolphins. Got an opportunity with a Sports Illustrated affiliate called Fansided. And then when I worked with them, I was able to get the opportunity with the Miami Dolphins. But I did that all on my own, just through perseverance and productivity and really pushing for it. So I would say that was really my first successful entrepreneurial endeavor, even though I had to work for someone else, even though it was kind of a job. I really put in that work myself and created the opportunity that I wanted to.
So I know you as a sales guy. I know a lot of people in the entrepreneurial community know you as the go-to for teaching sales. Where did that sales come into play? I mean, I know you're a high energy guy. Did you take a course on sales? Did you learn it through trial and error? Walk us through that.
Yeah, so I didn't take a course on it ever, actually. I never have taken any courses on sales. I think the misconception with sales is that there has to be some way to persuade someone to pay you in a certain format. For me, sales has always just been conversational. When I started, high school was when I first had my psychology class when I was a senior in high school. And it was talking about introspection and the way the mind works and the amygdala and how your hypothalamus works and how, like, I'm so fascinated by the human brain, human psychology, the way that we think. I've had some experiences in my life that really transformed who I was, and those meaningful, thought-provoking experiences you have, especially going through puberty or growing up from 15 years old to 25 years old, is a hugely growth period in your time in your life. It really just transitioned me to think more about how human beings think, which made me more conversational, which led me to be very open with people, which led me to allow them to pay me in certain ways. So what I ended up doing was taking all of the knowledge that I learned about psychology and then incorporating it into conversations. And when I was starting, Nathan, especially when I was working with attorneys, I'd get so many people saying what you just said, like, oh, you're a salesman. You're good at this. What have you done before? I'm like, I work for the Dolphins. I haven't done anything. So to bolster my skill, right? Like a real master has to hone their craft and really practice. Bruce Lee once said that it's not about, knowing 6,000 kicks. It's the master is someone who practices that one kick 6,000 times. So one of my things was like, I really needed to perfect and craft my skill. So what I ended up doing was just reading as many books as possible on it. My favorite probably ever would be Oren Klaff's Pitch Anything. Just a really incredible book, very well written. And I think I took most of my principles from that. And that's kind of where I really started to dive into my own principles and starting to learn my own formats and frameworks that I now coach and teach.
I love it. And I want to talk about sales, but first I want to talk about your setup. You've got your agency, you've got your courses that you're selling. How do you have it set up? Are you working remote? Do you have an office? Talk to me about how your team is set up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have two companies, Prospecting on Demand, which is my coaching program and mentorship program. There's two pieces of Prospecting on Demand. One is my $1,000 standard Prospecting on Demand course, kind of for beginners and people that want to go on their own path. And then a mentorship program that you work with us and our team, and we take you towards $10,000 recurring and beyond for agencies or coaches and consultants. Then I have Sky Social Media, which is my marketing agency. And the marketing agency is focused just on personal injury attorneys. Been doing that since basically like 2011 or 12. So the way the structure on the marketing agency is, my time is not devoted in any way to that company. I hired Reach Local, which is a really large marketing agency, to handle all the fulfillment. I brought in clients, developed them a really effective system that's not just lead generation, but a comprehensive marketing solution. We haven't lost really any clients in the last 5 years, like one client really, but we also don't bring on clients because we charge a premium price for a premium level service, $2,500, $5,000, or $10,000 for our service packages. The differences for people that are interested would be the $10,000 package includes a CRM, $5,000 package includes SEO, $2,500 package is the standard. So that's kind of the model. The way that company is set up is that at Reach Local, I also paid someone extra investment and salary to make sure that they stick with us long term. That's really worked out well for us. On the Prospecting on Demand side, my wife is also my business partner. We were kind of carrying the load together for maybe 3 to 4 years as we started, and then we started bringing on a lot of people. We did it mostly remote first. With VAs, and then we started working with people remote in the United States. Big shout out to John Davey, who was kind of our first partner. And then we found Brian Downard, who is a coach in his own right, and kind of brought him into our fold. And now we have a team of 6 people, incredible coaches, all in the United States, amazing human beings, very, very intelligent. We all work in different areas, but actually, Nathan, really exciting. We're going to have the entire team come out a month from today, for the first time, all meeting in person, which is going to be amazing. So I can't wait for that. So that's kind of the plan, the platform, and the way that we structure our business.
I love it. And you use Free Up. You have one VA from us, and we were chatting before, and you were like, I don't even know. It's the responsibility of someone on my team to manage that VA, handle that VA. I think a lot of people struggle with that. They're not able to give someone else that responsibility. How are you able to do that and really rely on them to manage other people on your team?
Yeah, so like micromanaging is something that I am totally not interested in. One of the most valuable things that I ever learned was a job scorecard. And I learned this from Austin Netzley, great guy, super smart.
I just interviewed him yesterday for the podcast.
He's a G, absolutely brilliant guy. And he shared with me, I was having some troubles hiring because that's one of the obstacles I didn't encounter or experience, which was, it was my wife and I. Now I'm hiring someone else. Like, how do I make sure that they handle it like you're talking about? Not even a VA, but someone at a higher level level? How do I ensure that they handle what I need them to handle and feel comfortable letting them, deal with it? One of the core competencies that Austin used to talk about was the ability to figure shit out. I love that core competency. So that's kind of my model and mode. Just like, if you can't figure this out, don't ask me the question. You're just not going to work with us later on. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. But if I need to micromanage you, then there's no reason for me to hire you. So one of my big things is just not having to be Superman. I don't need to be Superman. I don't need to be Atlas shrugged. I don't need to carry the weight of the world on me. I just need to focus on what I do best. Does that mean sometimes the people we bring on in the past haven't worked out? Sure. That's always going to happen. You're not going to hit a home run with every person you bring on. But if you're so honed in on micromanaging every single person you bring on, you're not going to be able to do what you need to do. So we kind of put checks and balances in place, reporting, support, ensuring that certain things are there. But at the end of the day, it comes down to trust and belief in the people you hire. And that's exactly why. So when you asked me at the beginning, like, hey, like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't even know. Someone else on my team would handle that. That's the management side that I'm not dealing with because I'm focused on other pieces.
How do you build a culture, and how do you build a remote culture, and not just a remote culture, but a remote culture around sales? Because I feel like sometimes people think of sales as cutthroat, like me versus them. How do you bring it all together?
Yeah, man, it's huge. So culture is everything to me. I am such a believer in this mission statement that we have, which is, like our mission, our goals, our purpose is much greater than the leader, which is myself, right? Like, I don't want this to be Alex Schlinsky's plan. I want this to be the prospecting on demand plan. Like, I want to impact 1,000 people's lives in helping them create a more efficient business process and system so that they don't have to be a freelancer forever. They can be a CEO. They can have time and financial freedom the way that they define it and be able to provide for themselves, their families, and of course the clients as well. I'm a strong believer that when you give from a place of integrity, you're always going to get back from a place of integrity. So in terms of the cutthroat style, like, I just completely put that to the side. I'm not I'm not of the belief that sales is cutthroat or in any way negative. I think it's a critical aspect to human life and very, very important to understand how to do it appropriately, fairly, and with integrity. And ultimately, my biggest goal is to create the biggest impact possible. My dad, when I was younger, used to tell me a lot about the Schlinsky name, right? You were asking me how to pronounce it before. One of the first mentors I hired, Nathan, he asked me and told me I should maybe switch my last name. And I'll tell you why I fired that guy that day, because of what my dad used to say. He used to say the Schlinsky name needs to mean something, right? The name is unique, right? It doesn't mean that Johnsons or, Brads and like standard last names don't mean anything. But what he was expressing is your uniqueness is what allows you to stand out and make the biggest impact possible, make the world better than it was when you got here. And that's something that I really, really take to heart, that really matters to me. And that's why we created this culture, not around the Schlinsky name, but around what our mission is, which is to impact as many people's lives as possible. And that's why when people work with us, they flock to us because of that culture, because of the prospecting on demand family, because they know we actually give a shit rather than, hey, can I just take your money and squeeze out from whatever I need from you? That's my style. That's our model. In building the culture, the number one thing that I've learned, the value that I've brought to the table is just allowing everyone to have a seat at the table and speak their mind. One of the biggest and most valuable things I've ever done is had calls and meetings with my team where I don't say anything, which is very hard for me, Nathan. I don't say anything, and I want to hear what they have to say without the fear of them getting fired or bludgeoned to death if they say something that doesn't fit my mold. I want to hear their voice. I want to know what that means, and that's how we create a culture. That's how it works very effectively for us.
I love it. You're obviously someone that's invested a lot in themselves. You talked about hiring coaches and mentors. I think sometimes that scares people off. I mean, there's so many people out there that are marketers. How do you know who's legit, who you should follow? How do you figure that out? How do you decide when to invest in yourself? How do you decide what that correct investment is and who to go to?
It's an excellent question. There's no right or wrong answer. I've definitely made poor investments. I can't sit here and say that I've made every investment has worked out exactly the way I want to. One of the really key pieces of my life is understanding the energy balance of the human beings. And I don't mean this in like a metaphoric sense or even the stars are aligned. You can believe whatever you want. That's all fine. Just naturally, a human being is similar to the gas tank in your car. At some point you're going to deflate yourself. You're going to be low on energy, and you have to identify what brings you energy. So a lot of people, what brings them energy is working out. Nathan, I know you're big on that, right? That brings you energy, right? A lot of people want to spend time with their kids or their wife. That brings them energy. A lot of people want to listen to music or go karting. That brings them energy. What brings me energy is my alone time, me being in my own zone, getting away from all the noise. So that's really like important to me to kind of take time to slow down, and slowing down is when I'm capable of figuring out when to make the appropriate investments. I think a lot of people make investments while they're running, like metaphorically running, and that causes them to make poor missteps. I like to slow it down before I start running to get really to the core root issue and identify who can help me. So when someone tells me like they've made an investment that didn't work out for them, I always try to explain like what I want to understand is your core root issue and whether or not I fit that mold. And if I do, I'm going to be aggressive in getting you in here because I know that it would be a disservice for you if I didn't. On the other hand, if it's not the right fit for you, I'm not going to waste your energy or time because I'm never going to allow someone to get in a conversation with someone else that's like me and say, you know, I went with Alex Schlinsky and Prospecting on Demand and it sucked and it didn't work. I won't let that happen to the best of our ability. So we build a lot of goodwill with the people we work with because of that energy and style that we put in. And that's really, really a major focus. So when I'm trying to identify the best investments possible, I slow it all down. I identify what's the core issue or problem here that I'm facing. And then I identify how can I solve that, whether it's with something that we already have or some other investment I need to make outside of that.
I love that. I love slowing it down. I love building that culture. I love how you have two different businesses, one, your agency that you have a white label partner, and another one where you have a team and you've got virtual assistants and you've got people all over, whether it's coaches or employees or whatever it is, two different ways to grow a business. And let's switch gears for a little bit. I want to talk about sales. Where is it the average entrepreneur messes up when it comes to sales?
Probably sticker shock. I would say it's probably like the singular like core issue, sticker shock, like allowing someone to focus on a price instead of isolating that variable. Like I'm big on isolating the price variable, like get everything else off the table, no other objections on the table other than what's the price of this service. Because that's where everyone's mind is at the start of any sales conversation is what's the price? What's the price? Isolate that variable so we can avoid sticker shock. But in a much larger sense, I think there's two other really key pieces. Number one, everyone offers the same thing or is fighting for the bottom of the barrel. Like, oh, there's so much competition, so I'll charge lower and lower and lower. And then they bitch about how the clients suck. It's like, yeah, because you're offering them a low price crap service. You get what you pay for, right? Like that's part of the game. And then on the other end is just frames. Like people do not understand frameworks at all in any sort of way. So they do every single sales call in a completely different way. They can't learn from anything. And it's not, homogenous, essentially the same thing over and over so that you can optimize it. And I think that's really where people lose it. So one of the things that I do is I teach them a very powerful psychological technique called the PAC model. And this is actually a 1950s psychoanalytic theory from a Canadian psychologist, Eric Berne. And most people, when you say psychoanalysis, they've probably heard of like Sigmund Freud, right? And all that kind of stuff. But you don't really hear about these other people that have made these unbelievable, transformational, incredible discoveries of how the human psyche works. And PAC is definitely my favorite in terms of sales. So the PAC model in very limited process here is parent, adult, and child. These are the three ego states that you speak to in every single conversation. So the parent is the person that is skeptical, right? Naturally skeptical because they want to do it out of security for themselves, their family, their investments, their time, etc. So how do you overcome skepticism? You need to have proof of some case to show them that you can overcome that skepticism. Then the adult process, this is the logical framework. Most people hopefully think in a logical framework. So what you need to do is have a 1, 2 equals 3 process. That's the idea rather than all this stuff. Remember this sentence, a confused mind does not buy. A confused mind does not buy. And then C is the child. This one's the easiest one for people to resonate with. It's that childlike dream and goal that you had. If you removed all the other things and responsibilities in your life, what's left at the core? It's that childlike goal that you want. The sipping, a margarita in the beach. It's the opportunity to just be free on the Titanic and feeling the wind. Like those are the models that you need to be discussing in your sales and overcoming those processes. So if you guys want to follow me and learn what I do, when you read any post that I do, when you listen to any podcast that I do, when you watch any training that I do, when you read any content that I post, identify that I'm always speaking either the P, A, or C, or all three at the same time, because that is how persuasion happens in a fair way with integrity, allowing someone to make an investment that makes sense for them. And that's called transactional analysis. And that's how, again, I've taken my psychology background and utilized it for sales in a very effective way.
I love it. How would you describe yourself as a salesperson?
Caring. I think that's the best way to say it. Caring. I really do care. Sometimes a little too much, like totally frankly, like, I can end the day thinking about the person I spoke to that day because they just are in a really tough scenario. And I've been in tough scenarios before, and I'm really, really, really grateful for where we're at and the work that we put in. And sometimes, it's difficult for me to have the appropriate perspective. And I think perspective's everything in life. Like when I go into a sales conversation, what I really sincerely want to do is have the person's best interest at heart. Now, my best interest is always make money. That's the obvious best interest. But what I want to transition is this mindset that the only way to have a successful sales conversation is to get paid. And I just don't believe that. What I believe is that the time is worthwhile, that if you made any sort of impact whatsoever, then it matters. So I get on calls with people and they tell me how difficult their life is at this moment and how hard things are. And I understand that all they're trying to do is say, Alex, do you have what I need to make this solution? And if so, tell me honestly with integrity, or don't. And sometimes I have to get on a conversation and kind of bite the bullet and say, it sucks to say this. I'm not the person to help you right now. And ultimately, it's not my best interest to say that to you, but it is your best interest. And that's what you need. Because when I'm on a sales conversation and when I'm going to make an investment, all I want is on the other end, the person to say, this is really what you need in confidence, not just so I can make money, but because this is what you're missing. So I think caring is definitely the best way to express my sales intent.
I love it. And I have the same mentality. I mean, the example that I always give is if someone comes to me and they say, I don't know anything about e-commerce. I just want to build a Shopify store that makes me $10,000 a month. I want to hire a VA from you for $5 an hour and just have them build it. It's like, listen, we're not your place. You need to go take a course. You need to go talk to a mentor. I'm not your guy. So I love it, opposed to the used car salesman where as long as they're pushing cars and getting them off the lot, it's a sale, it's success,
Yeah, I'm not like that. It's hard for me to have this mindset of like, just by any means necessary sell, and then you're putting them in a worse position. Like I want to just be in their shoes. I want to understand what it's like, what's at stake. Like I really understand what's at stake. There's too much at stake to not really care for the person on the other end. And that does make sales more difficult in terms of the ultimate goal, which is getting paid. But if you transition that goal from being paid to making impact and making a difference in someone's life, then I think you'll find a lot more rewarding process through sales. And that's why I still do them. Like Nathan, people get on calls with me and they're like, is this Alex? Wait, what? Why are you doing the call? Why didn't you hire someone? It's like, well, I love doing this. I'm super passionate about it. I want to be connected to you and I want to learn about you. And I want to see if I believe in what I can provide to you, because that's really important to me. It doesn't mean that forever I can do sales, right? Like at some point, we're going to have to bring someone else on, but I'm going to do it until I can't. And that's really important to me.
I love it. Alex, where can people find out more about you and what are you most excited about for the rest of the year?
Yeah, the best ways to find me is prospectingondemand.com, or just go to my Facebook, Alex Schlinsky. If you find me on facebook.com/Schlinsky, SCHLINSKY. So I post all my content there and on my website as well. And I do trainings all the time, and I have a free group as well called High Ticket Sales and Systems for Entrepreneurs. It's really good. So if you want to join that on Facebook, feel free to. The thing I'm most excited about, I already mentioned it before, but my whole team is coming down here to Tampa, Florida next month, and we're doing some video shoots, some really high quality stuff. I think the only thing that I feel I've missed that's kind of been a dissonance through my career is I don't have the right quality of video production to showcase the quality of service we provide. So I made a pretty hefty investment in that, time and financially. And I'm really, really, really excited to see the result, to have our whole team here and really express that culture that we have. And I can't wait, honestly. I'm so excited.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see that content. Guys, check out Alex. Check out his Facebook group. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Did you enjoy this content? If so, click like, leave us a comment, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you great content all about hiring.